Hi everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, where sometimes we cruise for burgers. And it's time for another episode of the series Frank Zappa, One Album at a Time. And it's about time that we talk about this album, Them or Us. This album is a Barking Pumpkin label release. So let's just bring that over here. Okay. And it has the purple label with the pumpkin and the cat speaking Chinese, which interestingly, I mean, there's a number of sources that explain what the words are in the balloon for the cat. However, my preferred translation of that comes from when I had a t-shirt that I picked up at a Zappa show back in the 80s and when I was in Tucson, Arizona. And it was a really very nice yellow shirt, but I wore it to death, and I would love to get, another one because I really liked that shirt. But anyways, it had the Barking Pumpkin label on it. And we were taking a road trip from Tucson to go down into Mexico to Puerto Penasco to buy jumbo shrimp, fresh off the boat there in Puerto Penasco. And we stopped for a little lunch break during the drive. And there was this Chinese girl with us. And we were kind of walking around this playground or whatever that was out in the middle of the desert. And she just started laughing when she saw my shirt. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. You know what the cat is saying. Tell me. And she said, God is shit. So there are some various translations that, are similar, to that. But I always loved finding out about that from her during that trip. Anyway, this double LP was released in October of 1984. And then the Zappa Records CD was released in 2012. Now, fair warning with this video, I'm going to get into some very detailed track-by-track descriptions with this record, which I haven't always done when I am doing a Frank Zappa review. I really haven't listened to this in a long time. And I have, in listening to it again for this video and doing the work on the research, I have a new respect for this. Something that I also noticed that I didn't notice before on the cover is that you see this very faint text right there, okay? And it says, Donald Roller Wilson, 1983-28, Monday, October 31st, Halloween, 2:47 p.m. to 3:03 p.m. Well, Donald Roller Wilson is the artist who created the cover art. And it was a painting. And the same, or similar cover art he did as well for Boulez Conducts Zappa. You see there. And also for the release Francesco Zappa. So they all three of these covers are featuring Patricia, the dog. This is a mix of both studio and live recordings. And the live recordings also include studio overdubs. I mean, I don't think there is a true live recording of Zappa's out there that he did not tinker with in some, even if it was in a very minor way, back in the studio. There are a couple records that say that there are no overdubs on the live recordings, but the fact of the matter was that there were overdubs done in the studio to the live recording. So yeah, I don't think he could ever leave anything alone. Anyway, the back cover depicts Zappa here with this oven mitt, this green oven mitt on one hand. And what he was doing was mocking other pop music artists, such as Michael Jackson, Billy Idol, and some others. He also has mentioned that there was this 60s band called The Music Machine that also, they were from LA, and they also wore a glove on one hand. So in the big note, Zappa, there's a portion of an interview with Zappa explaining what was going on with the green oven mitt. He said a lot of these big groups today, of course this was, at the time in 1984, a lot of these big groups today use one glove because the one hand that the glove is on has been used for a special purpose. It maybe has some blisters or hair on the palm. And when the person appears on stage showing the audience one glove, it indicates to the other people in the audience who have been doing the same thing with one hand that the person in the audience and the person on stage are the same kind of guy. In other words, they're all jerking each other off. And that's what the one glove means today. So there you have Frank's explanation for the green oven mitt. Now the tracks here, this is a double album, and as I say, they vary from being studio recordings to live recordings. The album opens up with The Closer You Are. This is a studio recording, a song that was originally recorded by the Channels, or the Chanels, in 1956. And it was written by a 15-year-old, the lead singer, Earl Lewis. Then it goes, and I'm going to talk more about the music with each of the songs later. Then this is followed by In France, which is a studio recording, with Johnny Guitar Watson singing the lead. And Johnny Guitar Watson, who is a major influence on Frank, and also got his career resurrected by Frank. So when we talk about, the song In France, we got, it is, the song, as Frank is insisting, is fair commentary on what Frenchness means to a person who is not French and has to be subjected to Frenchness. It is not a put down to the French. It is the facts. Now, I was able to ascertain from some interviews I did in France that the toilet that we're speaking of in the song is referred to in France as the Turkish toilet. So if it's a Turkish toilet, then what's it doing in France? But that's all I know from French toilets, is the thing with the bomb sight and the two footprints where you pull the chain, and if you're lucky, it doesn't climb up to your ankles. The stuff comes up out of the hole, but all the stuff that in that song was true, including the mystery blowjob that happened to one of the guys in the band. It started with this green fudge coming out of his weenie, and he didn't realize that you could get this disease from sticking it in somebody's mouth. But it did happen in France, so it belongs in the song. Yes. Then we have also this song first appeared in June 1980 in a Zurich show. And then also with this song, Zappa's quoted Cars, excuse me, not The Cars. He quoted Cars by Gary Newman in several guitar solos, and also Frank sang 3 verses to the song France, to the tune of Cars during the song at a performance at the Mud Club. Then we come to the song Johanza, which is a composite of studio and live recordings. And this was a recording that Zappa did in response to evangelicals alleging that rock music contained subliminal satanic messages that could be heard if you played the music backwards. So Zappa deliberately recorded the vocals backwards, including lines, "You're a lonely little girl," and "Yeah, for sure," like "No way," that would be Moon Unit, and then "Ich bin der Kron Dinette." These are some of the vocals that were recorded backwards. For this reason, it was never performed live with the backwards masking. It might have been performed live just as an instrumental. Then comes side 1 closes with Charlena. This is a concert recording, but Dweezil's solo was recorded in the studio and overdubbed, removing Frank's solo from the live performance. Then we go into side 2 with Sinister Footwear. This was recorded at a late show at Owings Mills, Maryland, on November 15th, 1981. And also parts of it are from a show June 23rd, 1982 in Böblingen, Germany. So about the guitar with this particular one, Frank was saying, because he plays his solo on a blonde Stratocaster. And he said it has an extremely high output that will cremate just about any amplifier. And it has 2 bands of parametric EQ that will increase the clipping and sustain to ridiculous levels. You can tune it to exactly the right feedback frequency on a run, so you can hold a note and it'll just lay there for a week. So yeah, pretty interesting note about that. Also, the song is played in what Tommy Mars called a minor Lydian. All right, and this is what Tommy Mars said about the minor Lydian. Okay, I heard Earl Garner play it, and I said, I have to have that. And this is like at 7 years old, and I've lived that sound my whole life. It's something way deep inside me. It was way deep inside Frank too. It's all over his music. So, well, again, a little interesting commentary about this minor Lydian scale that he was playing. Then we go into the song Truck Driver Divorce. This is a live recording from the Ritz in New York City from November 17th, 1981, plus an unidentified 1981 show. The guitar solo is actually taken from Zoot Allures from a Ritz performance. And Zappa plays in this a Sunburst Strat that formerly belonged to Jimi Hendrix. The drums during the solo are likely a studio overdub, not real clear about this, and are by Chad Wackerman. And Chad Wackerman did a lot of studio overdubs for drums for Frank in a lot of recordings, as well as performed during tours. Frank said the song would likely be, quote, the end of country and Western music. It's like country music on PCP. I have more to say about the song later. A studio recording was made, but at the time of the big note that I'm using as a source, it remained unreleased. So it might have been released on some of the subsequent posthumous releases that have been coming out. I'm not sure. Then we come to side 3, which opens up with Stevie's Spanking, referring to, of course, Steve Vai. This is spliced together from at least 3 shows. You've got a show on New York, November 17th, 1981, a show from Minneapolis, November 28th, 1981, and then a Munich show from June 26, 1982. Recordings from other shows might have been used in addition, but there doesn't appear to be any clear provenance about that. There are guitar solos by Steve Vai and Dweezil. Now, Dweezil's was a studio recorded guitar solo and was overdubbed onto it. The song is based on a true incident involving Vai and a woman by the name of Laurel Fishman that took place November 14th, 1980, when they played at Notre Dame in South Bend, or Notre Dame, I guess, because it's South Bend, Indiana. It was, reflecting some hotel room escapade that involved the two of them. Vai says he didn't actually get spanked, but Laurel, was chasing him around with a hairbrush, wanting to hit him. So there is a comment about this too in the real Frank Zappa book. This is by some twist of fate, Steve. They engaged in a variety of practices involving hairbrush, and Steve drooling on his own dork while she jerked him off. According to Steve Vai, since I'd known, or maybe this is Zappa saying this, since I'd known Laurel for years and since she was being commemorated in this folk song, I thought I should at least let her know what I was writing, and that if she had any objections to it, she should state them. She did not. In fact, she thought it was a good idea, and she wrote out a release in longhand. There's actually a bit of dialogue between Frank and Laurel that is repeated in the real Frank Zappa book, worth checking out. Then we go into this song, Baby Take Your Teeth Out. This is a sound check recording from Frankfurt, Germany on June 11th, 1982. And despite it being a sound check, it was not performed at all during the 1982 tour, but was performed during the 1984 tour, and it included a guitar solo. Then we have the Marquison's Chicken. Now, this is a live recording that's either from June or July in 1982, and the guitar solo comes from the Late Show in London on June 19th, 1982. And this refers to, the title of the song, refers to a time when the monitor engineer Marquis Coy, or Mark Coy, but it's spelled M-A-R-Q-U-E, tied a rubber chicken to Frank's mic stand at Rennes, France on June 2nd, 1982. And there was a 1988 performance of this song that turned up as the title track to Transfusion. It's one of these posthumous recordings that came out that is primarily guitar solos, but it's a CD-only release. Then we have the song Planet of My Dreams. This is another studio recording, but the interesting thing about this is this was compiled over many years, all right? None of the instrumentalists playing in this song at the time that they were recording their portion of it were in the band at the same time. So this was recorded over decades, and it was never performed live by Frank, but the band's Project Object performed it once in 2002, and Dweezil performed it in 2016. And the final side, side 4, opens up with Be In My Video. This is another studio recording from 1984. just before the tour began. And it's the only track in Zappa's official output to feature keyboardist Brad Cole, who was a rehearsal musician for the most part in 1984. But he didn't end up touring with the band or recording further because he left the band to go play with Phil Collins because Phil Collins was going to pay him more. Okay, and this song is inspired by David Bowie's Let's Dance. More about that later. Then comes the song Them or Us. This was recorded July 3rd, 1982 in Bolzano, Italy. And the guitar solo comes from the Black Page #2 from Zappa in New York, the 1978 release. I'm not real clear on that because I went back and I listened to the Black Page #2, 1978, but there was no guitar solo in at least that track, and I didn't go through the entire tracks to find it. But anyway, that might have been a misstatement because that comes from this book, The Big Note, which normally is flawless in terms of the factual information in it. Then we have the song Frogs with Dirty Little Lips. This is a live recording from the early show, in Santa Monica on December 11th, 1981. This has a lot of studio overdubs. In fact, very little of the original live recording is retained for release on Them or Us. And so most of the music is studio overdubs. The song was inspired by Amit Zappa, who as a child would sing this song at home, but he would change the words every time he would sing it. And then the album closes with Whippin' Post. All right, so the Allman Brothers, the Whipping Post. They call it the Whipping Post, but on Zappa's album, it's the Whippin' Post. It's taken from 3 live shows. A late show at Santa Monica from December 11th, 1981. The late show at San Diego, December 12th, 1981. And then the early show in Frankfurt, June 11th, 1982. There is a studio drum overdub by Chad Wackerman that has been added to this track. Now, Robert Martin sings the lead vocals for this song. And the song, I'll talk more about the song when I talk about the individual ones. But the Mothers of Invention, had played concerts before with the Allman Brothers Band in Atlanta and Tallahassee. This was in 1970. So Frank was already not just familiar with the song because of its recording, but obviously he must have heard them play during these shows. And the covering of this song evolved after an audience member in the 1974 Helsinki show, which is on the You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, Volume 2, released in 1988, although the show was in 1974. But the audience person shouted out, "Whippin' Post, Whippin' Post." But, of course, they couldn't do it. But once Robert Martin was touring with the band and Frank discovered that Martin had sung this song in an earlier band that Martin was in, he decided then this band should learn it and that's going to become part of the concert tour repertoire. And then Zappa and his band did eventually play it in Helsinki, but that wasn't until April 29th, 1988. All right, so let's talk about the songs and the music. The opening track, The Closer You Are. This is a really, really excellent doo-wop cover. The harmonies by Ray White, Ike Willis, and Bobby Martin are superb. This is just a really, really well done cover of this doo-wop song. Really, really sweet. Now, the next track in France, we've got Johnny Guitar Watson, as I said, doing vocals. And his vocals are just swanky and dirty growl, and it works really, really well with the song. And again, the harmonies provided by Ray White, Ike Willis, and Napoleon Murphy Brock are really excellent as well. Lyrically, the song is a little prurient, but it's still a good song. Then the next track, Johazna, right? This opens with just a fantastic rhythm guitar riff by Frank. In fact, he plays rhythm guitar throughout the song. He is not playing the guitar solo. That is by Steve Vai. So the backwards vocals, all right, are really, really good. They're unintelligible, but they're just really sweet with the way they are brought into the song. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, Moon provided some of the backward vocals as well, doing the Valley Girl voice. Tommy Mars does some really weird shit on the keyboards. It really works with the song, but it's just really, there's just a small portion in there. And when you hear it, it's just really, really quite cool. And Chad Wackerman on drums and Arthur Barrow on bass, they are rock solid with the rhythm section. Now, as I mentioned, Steve Vai does the guitar solo. And I came up with a lot of S adjectives. It's searing, it's soaring, it's squealing, and it's scathing. It's just really a sumptuous guitar solo on there. Then we come to the song Charlena. And Charlena is a song that Frank, I think it originally appeared on Chunga's Revenge. That was the first time it appeared. And, there's several different presentations and orchestrations of the song. Many different versions. With this one, the vocals are provided by Frank, Bobby Martin, and Ray White. And it's really, really tight. This particular performance is really, really tight. I'm not really a fan of Tommy Mars' keyboards. A lot of his keyboards I'm really not a big fan of. They're too, I don't know what the word is, they're too cartoonish at times, in my opinion. Now, Dweezil does do a solo in here, as I mentioned before. And it is freaking rad. One of his better solos for this song. But it's still too short, which is usually the case whenever there's a performance of Charlena. And then we've got Ray White's vocals at the end are just absolutely stellar. Just really, really great. Well, then we come to Sinister Footwear. And in this one, Frank's guitar is like this grinding way down deep. And this is played on that blonde Strat. It kind of has a desperate, pleading air quality to it. And the keyboards, overall, the song, that is, not necessarily good, Frank's solo, but overall, that song has that kind of desperate, pleading atmosphere. And the keyboards are much better on this track. So the idea of sinister, to me, is portrayed really, really well here. Frank's guitar solo is aggressive. It's like a maniacal dance with knives that veers into this like schizoid frenzy. And then it descends into this grinding sound from the beginning. The second part, all right, of the solo is almost like a redemption, an absolution for that murderous frenzy that was brought on by the guitar. So it's not just the second part of the solo, but the second part of the song also. And the keyboards and Ed Mann's vibes, they bring us back to this kind of, I don't know, semblance of recognizability. And then throughout this entire song, Chad Wackerman on drums just keeps incredible time through all these insane time signature changes. Just really, really quite remarkable song. One of the best songs on the album. Then comes Truck Driver Divorce. And this could be a lot better, the vocal part, except that Frank drops into that sing-songy delivery that he does from time to time, and it gets overused. And I really, I think the first time I heard it was probably with The Dangerous Kitchen, and that I was fine with it then, but then it kind of started coming up again in other recordings, and he used it in other, when I saw him live in concert, he would use it also in other performances of other songs. It just, it was overused, and it really didn't like it. But the song is saved by his guitar solo because it is just a sublime composition. And as I mentioned earlier, it comes from a performance of Zoot Allures. It is performed on that Sunburst Strat that belonged to Jimi Hendrix. It dives and swerves, and all the while, Scott Tunis is there keeping rhythm on bass with some awesome playing of his own. You really should listen to it and pay attention to what's going on with the bass. There are times the tone that Frank is getting out of that guitar, my best description of it sounds like a Formula One racer distorting time and space around this like snake-like track, not an oval, but a snake-like track. The guitar solo saves the song. If this Drive Divorce was, if that was the whole song, it would have been like, this is skippable. But then again, Frank would write songs around a solo. He would have the solo first, and then he would write a song around it. And this might have been what was going on with Truck Driver Divorce. I don't know. Side 3 opens with Stevie's Spanking. This is a very hard rock vibe that gets going right away. Bobby Martin on lead vocal. He's doing the lead vocal, and he is great on this song. The first guitar solo in the song is Steve Vai. It is very much a stunt guitar solo. There's lots of finger tapping on the neck. There's like a screeching that gets out of the guitar. And the second guitar solo in the song is by Dweezil. And it's very Frank-like, very father-like in its style. It's very dexterous and at the same time grinding. And again, pulling from way down deep in a way that Frank would often do with his guitar solos. Then we come to the song, Baby Take Your Teeth Out. It's done in a pop style. Tommy Mars's keyboard solo is just, to me, kind of so-so. It's really kind of a so-so song. Unfortunately, it's a very short song. Then we get the Mark Sons or Marquis Sons Chicken. This has an amazing beginning. It's fast, it's bright, it's like syncopated madness. And then Ed Mann is just he's a maniacal. He's just freaking crazy on the vibes. Then the tempo kind of settles down for the guitar solo, presenting an almost kind of big band jazz feel to it. The solo varies from very predictable time signatures into short bursts of these wild and unusual time signatures, and they're all brought together by Frank's smooth, distorted madness. It's generally a solo that, believe it or not, is played at the time signature is 21/16, 21/16, and it's played over this continuous vamp in the background. And then the theme is brought back at the end for this very, very big finish. Really, really great song. And in fact, this one and the next song are also really stellar pieces on this album, and that is The Planet of My Dreams. This is actually kind of a Broadway style sound, and Bob Harris is providing the vocals, and they are just amazing. This is the song that I mentioned earlier that was recorded over many, many years, little bits. And then it's all like stitched together. And it's just a remarkable, remarkable composition. It's really, really delightful to listen to. Even with that Broadway musical style of presentation. It's just really, really good. I mean, yeah, this is another hidden gem on this album. And then we get to side 4, which opens with Be in My Video. And it's a retro song, kind of calling on the 50s style of music, but it's placing it in the 1980s concert. So yeah, it's okay. As I mentioned earlier, this is a song done as a riff on David Bowie's Let's Dance. I mean, you've got a lyric in there, pretend to be Chinese, I'll make you wear red shoes. You know, this is a clear jab at Bowie, because Zappa always held a grudge against Bowie for stealing Adrian Belew away from him when they were touring in Europe. Then we get the title song, Them or Us. This starts with Zappa's, the only word I can think of is sneering guitar solo. And this is just Zappa, Scott Tunis on bass, and Chad Wackerman on drums. I mean, this is like, when was the last time, you had a recording where there was just guitar, bass, and drum kind of situation, like maybe apostrophe, but anyway, he really picks us through these tremendous highs, and then he slides down, and then reascends with more ecstatic sounds. The guitar solo is just really, really quite incredible. As I said, it's supposed to come from the Black Page from New York, the Black Page 2. I'll listen to New York again to see if I can recognize it. But on the first listen, on the track that is titled The Black Page #2, I mean, there's no guitar solo on that track. So maybe it was removed when it was put on the record. I don't know. And then another song that's just kind of, I don't know, just, it's the one that, from Ahmet, Frogs with Dirty Little Lips. It's a funky song, very silly comedic ditty, but again, it's got that annoying sing-song delivery. Arthur Barrow, however, on bass is really, really good on this song. But still, it's one of the weaker songs in my opinion. And then the album closes with Whippin' Post. Yeah, Bobby Martin's vocals are just absolutely incredible. And we've got 3 guitars going on, so it has that really, really big sound that you would get from the Allman Brothers. So you've got Steve Vai on guitar, you got Ray White on guitar, and you got Zappa on guitar. Now, when Zappa's solo comes up, the band slips into a reggae rhythm for, in the background, and then Zappa he puts the stank on the guitar like nobody else does. And it's just a really, really good guitar solo. And it is kind of interesting how they slip into that reggae rhythm. And then when the guitar solo is over, they go back into the original rhythm, and presentation of the song, the style of the song. But geez, Bobby Martin's vocals, really, really solid on this song. So there you have it. The lyrics are on the inside of the gatefold. This is also a record. It was the first record that on the inner sleeves, you got this, a warning guarantee that this album contains material which a truly free society would neither fear nor suppress. In some socially retarded areas, religious fanatics and ultra-conservative political organizations violate your First Amendment rights by attempting to censor rock and roll albums. We feel that this is unconstitutional and un-American. And then it goes on. But the guarantee part, so that's the warning. The guarantee is this: the language and concepts contained herein are guaranteed not to cause eternal torment in the place where the guy with the horns and pointed stick conducts his business. This guarantee is as real as the threats of the video fundamentalists who use attacks on rock music in their attempt to transform America into a nation of check-mailing nincompoops in the name of Jesus Christ. If there is a hell, its fires await for them, not us. Right, we're talking about a record that was released in when was it, 1984. Look where we are now. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave a comment in the Down Under. I do appreciate getting them. Remember that you can find me on Instagram as NewsDude76. That's NEWZDUDE76. I have a Facebook page called Calvin Wazoo, where I not only post these videos, but I also post other music-related content, videos, articles, etc. Hey, hit that thumbs up. It does help. I appreciate that. And as always, remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.